I still remember the day everything began to fall apart. My wife, Clara, had just left the house, saying she was spending the weekend at her friend Mia's place. Girls' weekend, she called it, tossing her overnight bag into the back seat of her car with a grin that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We'll probably just watch movies and talk about life," she said. She kissed my cheek, smelled faintly of lavender and a new kind of perfume I hadn't noticed before, then drove off. At first, nothing about that moment seemed off. But as I stood there watching her taillights fade, something felt slightly rehearsed. When I'd asked, "Where does Mia live again?" I might drop off that old photo frame she wanted. Clara hesitated just long enough for it to register. Then she smiled too quickly and said, "Oh, don't worry. I'll give it to her myself." That pause stuck with me like a splinter under the skin. A few hours later, I got a text from my friend, Eric, asking if I wanted to grab a drink. I agreed, got in the car, and that's when my phone buzzed, a notification from our shared car insurance app. Usually, I'd ignore it, but for some reason, I checked. It was a GPS alert from Clara's car. The location label read, "Romantic Getaway, Cedar Pines Resort." I stared at that name until the letters stopped making sense. Maybe it was a glitch, I thought. Maybe that's what the resort next to Mia's house was called. But then I zoomed in on the map and saw it clearly. Cedar Pines was a couple's retreat. Private cabins, hot tubs, candlelit dining. Not exactly the kind of place two friends went for girl talk. I didn't call her. I didn't drive there. I just sat in the parked car, engine running, phone glowing in the dark. My pulse didn't spike, my hands didn't shake. That's not who I am. When something breaks, I don't panic. I plan. So I drove back home, poured myself a drink, and opened my laptop. Within minutes, I knew everything about Cedar Pines, its layout, staff list, reservation policies, even which cabin was number 7. That's where the GPS pinned her car. I didn't confront her. I didn't send a message. I wanted the full picture, the truth unfiltered by excuses. If she was lying, I'd know. If she wasn't, I'd know that too. I stayed up most of the night staring at that glowing dot on the map. It didn't move. Her car stayed parked in front of that same cabin, in that same place called Romantic Getaway. And in that moment, I knew something inside our marriage had already ended, quietly, long before I noticed. By morning, I had a plan. I wasn't going to burst into her weekend or create a scene. No, I was going to let the truth reveal itself, slowly, precisely, without emotion. Because the one thing people never expect is to be caught by someone who's calm enough to watch them ruin themselves. By the time the sun rose, my mind was already set. I wasn't going to confront Clara. Not yet. People reveal the most when they think they're safe, when they believe their lie has landed. So I made coffee, tidied the house, and went through the motions like it was any other weekend. I checked the GPS again. Her car hadn't moved. Still at Cedar Pines. Still parked in front of cabin 7. The name glared at me from the map, Romantic Getaway. I opened the resort's website. The photos told a story of their own. Secluded cabins with fireplaces, couple spa packages, exclusive candlelit dinners under the stars. There wasn't a single picture of friends laughing or a group of women sharing wine. Every image screamed intimacy. I clicked through the booking section and noticed something that caught my eye. Each cabin had its own parking space, and guest details were optional if paid for in advance. That meant whoever she was with had already planned this carefully. I didn't call the resort. I didn't need to. People who hide things often leave traces in the smallest ways. Clara wasn't careless, but she wasn't built for secrecy either. She'd left her laptop at home. That was my first break. I didn't hack anything. No passwords. No invasion. Just opened her browser and checked the search history. It was mostly harmless. Recipes, emails, work-related stuff, until I saw it. A tab that had been cleared but not closed properly. The title read, "Romantic Getaways Near the Lake, Best Cabins for Couples." My stomach tightened. There it was, quiet confirmation that she had planned it. Still, I didn't move from my chair. I just sat there, letting the reality sink in. The woman I'd built a life with, the one who used to call me every evening just to say goodnight, had been searching for romantic getaways. Not with me. I could have gone to that resort right then. I could have knocked on cabin 7's door and watched her face crumble. But that's not how I wanted this to end. I wasn't interested in scenes or shouting matches. I wanted understanding, the full, ugly truth. So instead, I called Eric. "Hey," I said casually. Remember that private investigator you mentioned a while back? The one who helped your cousin? He hesitated. Yeah, what's going on? Nothing yet, I said. Just send me his number. By noon, I had a plan. I drove into town and met the investigator, a quiet man named Lewis who didn't waste words. I explained everything. Showed him the GPS screenshots, the browser tab, the resort name. He just nodded. You don't want confrontation, he said. You want confirmation. Exactly. He promised to handle it discreetly. You'll have photos, times, and names. No one will know. That night, I sat in the living room staring at my phone. The GPS that was still there, motionless, settled deep in the woods. She was still with whoever he was. Laughing maybe. Sharing wine. Living a story where I didn't exist. I leaned back, expression steady, voice quiet in the empty house. All right, I whispered to myself. Let's see how deep this goes. Because sometimes, silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. 2 days passed before Lewis called. His tone was calm, almost casual, like he was reading the weather report. I've got what you asked for, he said. You'll want to sit down before you open this. He sent a file to my email. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where Clara and I had eaten dinner hundreds of times before, where she used to laugh over burnt toast and Sunday coffee. I opened the folder. The first picture was blurry, taken from a distance. But the second one, there was no mistaking her. Clara, her hair tied back, that same cream-colored jacket she wore when she left. She was standing outside cabin 7, leaning against a man I'd never seen before. His arm was around her waist, and they were both smiling like the world didn't exist beyond those trees. I studied that photo for a long time, not with rage, but with an odd sense of curiosity. I wanted to understand what kind of person I'd really married. The woman who once held my hand through hard times, now wrapped in another man's arms. Lewis had included more photos, them walking along the cabin path, unloading groceries from a car, sharing a meal on the porch. Nothing dramatic, no wild displays of passion, just quiet intimacy. The kind that doesn't happen overnight. I scrolled through the images slowly. Each one felt like a truth I'd already known but hadn't had the courage to face. Lewis called again. Do you want to know who he is? Tell me. He cleared his throat. His name's David Hale. Works at the same firm as your wife. Marketing director. They've been colleagues for a couple of years. Married once, divorced 2 years ago. So it wasn't random. It was familiar. Someone she saw every day. Someone who probably listened when I wasn't around. Lewis continued. They checked in under his name. Paid in cash. 2 nights. Left this morning. I thanked him, transferred his fee, and ended the call. Afterward, I just sat there staring at the wall. The funny thing about betrayal is that it doesn't come with fireworks. It's quiet. It slips in through small lies, a delayed text, a vague weekend plan, a new perfume. By the time you see it clearly, it's already settled deep into your life. Later that evening, I got a message from Clara. Heading back tomorrow morning. Miss you. I stared at the screen. The words looked so normal, so harmless, yet they felt like poison dressed up as affection. I typed a reply. Can't wait to see you. And hit send. I needed her to believe everything was fine. I needed her to walk straight into the calm she thought she'd left behind. Then I printed the photos, placed them neatly in an envelope, and slid them into my desk drawer. I wasn't sure when I'd use them, only that I would. Not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. The next morning, I watched from the window as she pulled into the driveway. She got out, smiling like a woman returning from a peaceful weekend with friends. She hugged me at the door, light and casual, and said, "You should have come. It was beautiful." I smiled back. "Next time," I said, and as she walked inside, humming softly, I realized something had shifted in me. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was awake. The truth was no longer a mystery. The only question left was what I would do with it. When Clara walked through the door that morning, you'd think she was returning from a retreat meant to heal the soul. Her skin glowed. Her tone was lighter. She moved through the house, humming under her breath like the world owed her peace. She set her bag down, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "You wouldn't believe how relaxing it was. Mia really needed this." I nodded. "That's good. I'm glad you two got the break." She smiled. A real one, practiced and steady. For a second, I almost admired her composure. If I hadn't seen the pictures, I might have believed her. That's the thing about deception. It's only powerful until the truth arrives. After that, All you see are the cracks. The rest of the day, I watched her move through our home, pretending everything was normal. She unpacked her bag, did laundry, even showed me a few photos on her phone, random snapshots of lakes and trees. Nothing with Mia. Nothing with him. She'd thought ahead. She'd planned her lie carefully, but not carefully enough. When she went upstairs to shower, I checked her car. The GPS system still had the last destination in its memory, Cedar Pines Resort, Cabin 7. I took a photo of the screen, then cleared the history. No trace left behind. That night, as we ate dinner, she started talking about work. David's been stressed lately, she said casually, without realizing the weight of that name in her mouth. He's managing the new marketing rollout. Poor guy barely sleeps. I nodded slowly. Yeah, sounds tough. She didn't catch the tone. Her mind was somewhere else. Maybe back in that cabin. Maybe with him. Later, when she was asleep, I sat on the edge of the bed and studied her face in the dim light. She looked peaceful, unburdened, like someone who had convinced herself that her secret was safe. I thought about confronting her right then, waking her up, laying the photos on her chest, watching the lie dissolve under the weight of proof. But I didn't. She wasn't ready for the truth, and I wasn't done preparing it. The next few days were an act, hers and mine. She'd text during the day, call once or twice with that light, affectionate tone. I answered like nothing had changed. I wanted her to believe she'd gotten away with it. Meanwhile, I was laying the groundwork. Quietly, strategically, I started moving personal files off our shared computer, transferring money into a separate account, scanning documents I might need later. I wasn't planning a messy revenge. I was building distance, the kind that doesn't explode but erases. A week later, I got another alert from the GPS. Clara's car had left work and stopped at a coffee shop across town. I checked the map. Same neighborhood where David lived. I watched the little dot stay there for 2 hours. Then it moved again, heading home. When she walked through the door that evening, her hair slightly out of place and her perfume faint but distinct, she greeted me with that same casual cheer. Long day, she said. Yeah, I replied, smiling faintly. For both of us. She didn't notice the double meaning. She just kissed me lightly and went upstairs. That night, I opened my drawer and took out the envelope again. The photos looked the same, but they felt different now, heavier somehow. They weren't evidence anymore. They were leverage. I knew what I had to do. Not yet, but soon. Because when a lie grows this big, you don't tear it down in anger. You let it collapse under its own weight, right when the liar thinks they're standing on solid ground. The strange thing about guilt is that it has its own pulse. Even when someone hides it well, it leaks through in gestures, pauses, and glances that don't fit. I started noticing those leaks in Clara. At breakfast, she'd look at me a second too long, like she was checking if I knew something. When I'd ask how Mia was doing, she'd blink fast and change the subject. She wasn't careless, she was cautious. But that caution was the first sign her calm was cracking. I played my part perfectly. I kept my tone warm, my eyes steady. I made her believe I was still the same husband she left behind when she drove off to Cedar Pines. I still cooked, still asked about her day, still reached for her hand at the dinner table. And every time she smiled back, pretending nothing had changed, I could almost see her relief. That's what I wanted, for her to relax, to think the danger had passed. Meanwhile, I started my quiet investigation. I wasn't just after proof anymore. I wanted patterns. Lewis helped again. I asked him to track her only on weekends. No invasions, no messages, just movement. Within 2 weeks, I had the full picture. Every Friday evening, she'd leave work a little early, drive to a quiet spot near the lake, and meet David. They didn't always go to the resort. Sometimes it was a cafe, sometimes a cabin rental, sometimes just his car parked out of sight. Lewis sent me photos, timestamps, everything. The evidence piled up like a quiet storm behind my smile. On the 3rd weekend, I decided to test her. As she was packing, she said, Mia's having a tough time again. She needs company. I'll be back Sunday. I nodded. Of course. Tell her I said hi. Then I added, I was thinking we could go to the coast next weekend. Just the 2 of us. It's been a while. That threw her off. Her eyes widened for half a second before she masked it with a smile. Yeah, that sounds great, she said. But her voice trembled slightly. After she left, I called Lewis. Let them enjoy their weekend, I said. But make sure you get one good, clear shot of them together. Something she can't talk her way out of. By Sunday night, I had it. A picture of them standing close, his hand on her back, her face tilted toward him like she'd forgotten the world around her. I printed that one and placed it in a new envelope. Just one photo this time. No explanation, no note. Just truth. When Clara came home that evening, she acted like she always did. Cheerful, relaxed, a little too talkative. I let her. I even helped her unpack. She laughed about something at work, and for a brief moment, it almost felt normal again. Then, when she went upstairs, I slipped the envelope onto her vanity table, right between her perfume and her mirror. I sat in the living room after that, waiting. No sound at first. Then, faintly, the creak of the bedroom floor, the quiet shuffle of her feet. And then, silence. A long, heavy kind. 10 minutes passed before she came downstairs. Her face was pale. She held the envelope in her hand, the photo sticking slightly out of the top. "Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice brittle. I met her eyes. Calm. Unmoving. "From the truth," I said. She didn't speak again. She just stood there, trembling slightly, the mask finally slipping. And in that moment, I realized something important. I didn't need to shout or accuse. The silence was doing it for me. Clara didn't say a word for almost a full minute. She stood there frozen, staring at the photograph like it might change if she just looked long enough. Then her lips parted, and the excuses began forming before she even spoke. I could see it in her eyes, the frantic search for a version of the story where she wasn't the villain. "This isn't what it looks like," she finally said, voice trembling. I leaned back in my chair, hands folded loosely on the table. "Then tell me what it is." She swallowed hard. "It's complicated. Try me." She pulled out the chair across from me and sat down. Her movements were slow, deliberate, like she was buying time. "I didn't plan for any of this," she started. "It just happened. David and I have been working closely on a few projects. Things got confusing." "Confusing?" I repeated. My tone stayed even. "Clara, you booked a cabin called Romantic Getaway. That's not confusion. That's intent." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move to comfort her. I'd done that too many times before, absorbing her guilt, cleaning up her chaos. This time, she could sit in it. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. "That's the thing about betrayal," I said quietly. "It's never about intent. It's about choice." She broke then, started crying, words spilling in fragments. "I thought we were drifting apart. You were distant, always calm, like nothing touched you anymore. And then David, he just listened. He made me feel seen." I watched her wipe her tears with the back of her hand, waiting for her to finish the performance. "So you replaced me," I said simply. "No," she said quickly. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Enlighten me." She looked down, her fingers gripping the photo so tightly it bent at the corners. "It was just one weekend. I swear." "One weekend," I repeated, nodding slowly. "Then you won't mind if I ask, how many Mia weekends were there before this one?" That shut her up. Her eyes flickered, and that was answer enough. Silence filled the room again, heavy but not uncomfortable. For me, at least. I'd already passed the stage of heartbreak. What remained was clarity. "I'll pack a few things," she said finally, voice cracking. "I think I should stay at my sister's for a while. Give us space." I stood up, calm and deliberate. "That's a good idea." She paused, surprised by my agreement. "You're not angry?" I met her eyes. Anger's a waste of energy when you already know the ending. For the first time, she looked truly frightened, not because I was loud or aggressive, but because I wasn't. There's something unsettling about calm in a storm. She went upstairs to pack. I heard drawers opening, zippers closing. When she came down, suitcase in hand, I noticed she'd changed into something more presentable, like she wanted to leave with dignity. At the door, she stopped. "Can we talk later? When we've both had time." "Of course," I said, my voice steady. "We'll talk." She nodded, relief washing over her face. She thought this was mercy. She thought I was still the man she could manipulate with half apologies and trembling words. As the door closed behind her, I sat back down at the table and looked at the bent photo she'd left behind. Her face, his arm, the lie she called confusion, it was all there. Lewis had told me once, people like that always think they control the story until the moment you show them they don't. He was right. And now that she was gone, I had time to prepare the ending she wouldn't see coming. Because forgiveness was never part of my plan. Closure was. Clara stayed away for almost a week. She texted a few times, short, polite messages that sounded rehearsed. I hope you're okay. Maybe we can talk soon. I replied only once. We will. That was all she needed to believe there was still hope. Hope is a powerful thing. It keeps people blind longer than any lie ever could. While she was gone, I finished my preparation. Every file, photo, message, and GPS screenshot was organized into a single folder. I wasn't planning on dragging this through public courts or family gossip. No, what I wanted was precision, clean, quiet closure that would leave no room for her to twist the narrative. I met with a lawyer, someone discreet, the kind who didn't need small talk or sympathy. I laid out everything. He didn't even blink. If what you've shown me is accurate, he said, you'll walk away with everything intact. The house, your accounts, your peace. Good, I said. That's all I want. By the time Clara came back that weekend, the papers were ready. She walked into the house wearing a soft smile, the kind that tries to bridge distance without earning it. You look tired, she said, setting her bag down carefully. Have you been sleeping? Enough, I said. She hesitated, searching my face for emotion. Finding none, she tried again. I've been thinking a lot. About us. About everything that happened. I know I messed up, but I want to fix it. I let her talk. She needed to get it all out. The guilt, the bargaining, the half-hope that maybe I'd be too tired to start over. When she was done, I reached into the drawer and placed a sealed envelope on the table. She frowned. What's that? Your next chapter, I said. She opened it slowly. The color drained from her face as she read. Divorce papers. Inside the envelope was also a flash drive, a small, simple device holding every piece of evidence I'd gathered. GPS logs, photos, timestamps, even a brief summary from Lewis, the investigator. I'd formatted it neatly, professionally, like a report. I'm not sending this anywhere, I said calmly. Not unless you make me. You'll sign the papers, and I'll walk away quietly. You'll keep your name, your job, your reputation. That's my only offer. Her voice wavered. You'd really do that to me? I looked her dead in the eyes. No, Clara. You did this to you. I'm just giving it a proper ending. She started crying again, whispering my name like it could pull me back to the man she used to control. But tears don't erase choices. They only make them look smaller. After a long silence, she asked, Is there anything I can say to change your mind? There was, I said softly. But you used it when you lied to my face. She nodded slowly, realizing it was final. The tremor in her hands told me she understood exactly what kind of peace I'd built. Cold, deliberate, irreversible. When she finally signed, I took the papers, checked her signature, and said, Thank you. No anger, no sarcasm, just closure. At the door, she stopped and turned, tears streaking down her cheeks. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, she said. I know, I replied. That's why you'll remember me every time you look at what you lost. Then I closed the door gently. The sound of it clicking shut wasn't loud, but it was final. I stood there for a moment, breathing in the quiet that followed. The kind of silence that doesn't ache anymore. It just is. It wasn't victory I felt. It was release. And the best part? She'd never see the ending coming until it was already over. The morning after she signed, I woke to a kind of silence I hadn't heard in years. Not the cold, distant quiet that used to fill our home when love had turned into habit, but something cleaner, lighter, like peace finally had room to breathe. Her car was gone from the driveway. The house looked untouched, still, almost grateful. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching the steam drift upward. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't thinking about what she was doing or who she was with. I was thinking about what came next for me. People talk about closure like it's a sudden thing, like one big moment erases the pain. But it's slower than that. It comes in layers. Each breath a little steadier, each thought a little clearer. I didn't feel triumph. I felt balance returning. A week passed before I heard from her again. A text message, short and careful. I signed everything. I hope someday you can forgive me. I read it twice, then deleted it. Forgiveness wasn't my job anymore. Her apology wasn't mine to manage. Sometimes, peace isn't about forgiving others. It's about forgiving yourself for staying too long in a place that kept breaking you. Word got around, of course. A few mutual friends reached out, curious. They'd heard she'd left, but not why. I didn't explain. I wasn't interested in turning her mistakes into gossip. I'd lived the truth. No need to perform it for anyone else. A month later, Lewis called to check in. "You holding up?" he asked. "I'm good," I said. And I meant it. He chuckled. "You're one of the few who handle this kind of thing with grace." "It's not grace," I told him. "It's just understanding when enough is enough." After that, I started rebuilding quietly. Sold the house. Moved into a smaller place closer to the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just peaceful. Spent mornings running, evenings fixing up an old motorcycle that had been collecting dust in the garage. It wasn't about distraction. It was about rhythm, getting life back into motion on my own terms. Every now and then, her name would cross my mind. Not with bitterness, not even with nostalgia. Just recognition. She'd been a chapter, not the book. A mutual friend mentioned she'd been having trouble at work. Something about office gossip, tension, people finding out more than she expected. I didn't ask for details. Life has a way of balancing itself when you step out of the way. One evening, I found the last photo Lewis had sent me, the one of her and David at the cabin. I looked at it one final time, then burned it in a small tin tray outside. The flame caught quickly, curling the edges, erasing faces until all that was left was ash. As the smoke rose, I felt the strangest sense of gratitude. Not for what she did, but for what it taught me. See, betrayal breaks you down, but it also sharpens you. It teaches you the value of silence, of distance, of knowing your worth without needing to prove it. I didn't win anything from this. I just reclaimed myself. I poured another cup of coffee, sat back on the porch, and let the evening air settle. The world outside was quiet, honest, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for anyone to come home, because I already was. Dear listeners, our story has come to an end. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments.